Welcome to the Grit Behind the Grind podcast, where we dive deep into raw, unfiltered journey of entrepreneurship, fitness, mental health, and building businesses from the ground up. I'm Eric Rowell, co-founder of Grit and Grind Coffee, real estate developer, fitness enthusiast, dad, and husband.
And I'm Destiney Rowell, co-founder of Grit and Grind Coffee, creative, brand strategist, and above all, mom and wife, bringing you real talk on what it takes to thrive as a business owner, especially when you're doing it alongside your partner. Here, we don't just focus on the wins. We dig deep into the struggles, the sacrifices, and the daily grind that it takes to make it all possible. So tune in, subscribe, and get ready to uncover the grit behind the grind. Welcome back to the Grit Behind the Grind. Today, we're diving deep into the real story behind the hustle with our own specific story. I'm joined with guest, co-host, co-founder, Eric, more importantly, my baby daddy. So we are going to dive deep into our story with Grit and Grind and how we even got started. We're going to talk about the motivation that started it all, some sacrifices and tough lessons we learned along the way, and how we've managed to stay authentic through it all. So let's get into it. Eric, I'm curious. Tell the people what they all are probably dying to know. Why coffee? How do we get started? What was our motivation? And how in the world do we own a franchise now?
Yeah, so basically we started with like the area we're living in, like what was the need in the community, right? Because we knew that we needed to solve a problem to be successful. And we were currently into real estate. So we figured out that we were builders and we enjoy going and creating things. And we ultimately like to have multiple exit strategies. So when we were into real estate, after COVID, the pieces of property that we typically invested in started to dry up and we could not find them, which forced us to look at other investment opportunities, which led us to food trucks. And as we got to dive into that and looking at it more deeply, it was like, you know what? I don't want to own a food truck because there is zero things that excite me about flipping burgers. And then the only thing that we identified that we liked about the food truck concept was that you could do it at a lower risk, improve your concept without going and purchasing a full-blown building and real estate and so forth. So we knew that we enjoyed the versatility of being in a food truck, but did not want any type of association with food trucks. So the next thing that we evolved into was, hey, let's create a coffee truck. Right. So I enjoyed coffee.
We didn't have a coffee shop in our downtown. There was every downtown or every small town has that little staple piece coffee shop where you go and hang out with friends or community, or you go have a business deal. And we didn't have that. Honestly, our downtown was kind of like, all right. It was not thriving. And so we seen that need for it.
I remember when we first moved to this little town, what was our like validation thing or the kind of like, plant our flag here based on what?
We are pioneers. There is a Mexican restaurant and a Dollar General. We're staying. We're established.
No, but on the serious side, I remember we did have a conversation where it was like, okay, like I know they don't have a lot of food options here, but at least they have a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah, that was our selling point.
But no, definitely our community didn't have a coffee shop. And we was like, hey, we see coffee shops be very successful, all over the country. And I was traveling for one of my previous jobs. And one of the first things that I did was I Googled nearest coffee shop near me anytime that I landed in a new city or something. So for me, like it was kind of selfishly filling my own need, but there were so many different, exit plans, right? I could build out this trailer, and then if it doesn't pan out, I can resell the trailer. I could, have the coffee shop, and then ultimately do events and catering and all these other, kind of what ifs. It didn't pan out. So it was a safe bet for us. And again, it just was something that we realized that was not in our small town. And we was like, hey, it would be cool to create this.
Although you say we had a plan, like the vision, honestly, when I look back, we didn't have a plan. Like we just, like you took off, I could say this now, but you took off time work, vacation, like unpaid vacation. Like, what were we thinking?
Yeah.
We had no plan. Honestly, we went in there the first day and was like, if this works, it works. Dude, we sold out of cold brew. You had you were like, okay, I'm going to work tomorrow, Des. Good luck. Here's the torch. I'm passing it. Like, go for the goal.
Calling in, talking about I'm sick, using my sick days. No, we had a plan, but we didn't have a plan. I mean, when you think about the plan, what I mean by plan is I had a plan.
Pivot.
Well, basically, I'm going to put this bucket of money, right, into this investment. And if this investment doesn't pan out, then I can liquidate this coffee equipment. I can liquidate the trailer, right? I can recoup some of my investment. So that's where the plan comes into place. But as far as like how we got to where we are now, we had zero plan. It was just like so many things before this that was not successful. It's you just roll the dice and you're like, come on, seven, and this happened to be a 7 when so many other things was not that. And I there was 100 micro things on why this thing blew up and turned into something that is very beautiful and awesome. But we can probably break those down. But for time's sake, I think that that was it.
So let me redirect that. And to answer the question, it started off this little mobile concept to prove concept, to just kind of fill a need. Did we know that it was going to end up being this franchise? Absolutely not. The end goal was maybe this downtown coffee shop, but it evolved so quickly to creating and teaching an opportunity. And man, if it's not a beautiful example of not caring what other people think or even relying on your past experience, because at this point I never made coffee or drank coffee in my entire life, but I thought it was the best idea to go open up a coffee shop. If that's not the epitome of like, why would I not have imposter syndrome? Why would I not look at all the skills that I lack and be like, why in the world am I going to do this? But it never crossed my mind. Because I think that whenever God gives you a vision and you step into your purpose, the universe opens doors. People ask us all the time, how in the world did you do this? Yeah, we can say marketing, we can say this, but there's so many other avenues that we can't explain. But to me, we're living in our purpose.
For sure. No, I agree with that 100%. So let's jump in here. And what is a major challenge we face that most people didn't know about?
Oh man, gosh, there's so many. Again, like I don't know if people realize you and I both had full-time jobs. We made this was supposed to be a side hustle, which most of the time side hustles you do on the weekend. We decided opening day was going to be Monday, August 1st, like when we both had clients and work. And so juggling that, and the biggest thing was, and you could probably, hit on this more than I can, and you left your corporate cushion job, like your 6-figure.
So cushion, by the way. Dude, oh my gosh, the amount of work that I put in now versus what I was doing. My biggest challenge for the day was coming to the gym at 3:00 and, beating my friends in a workout, that's
the good old days.
Yeah. Now, oh man,
fire after fire.
But it's very rewarding. It's very purposeful. And that's what I tell people when I'm talking to somebody who's interested in buying into the brand and owning their own grit and grind. The first thing that I tell them is like, hey, listen, don't let me paint it as rainbows and unicorns because it is difficult. It is hard work, but it is so rewarding at the end of the day. Like I genuinely enjoy doing what I do. And I know that it's 10 times harder than what I was doing at my W-2 job.
Yeah. And if you ask me, one of the challenges, for me personally, it was having long talks alone and encouraging you to quit your job, not knowing if that was the right decision. We knew that what we wanted to do was for you to step away from insurance, salary job. But for me to sit there and convince myself that I need to encourage you, not knowing if this is the right decision or not, that was extremely difficult. Now look back, it paid off. We rolled a dice and we did good, but not knowing that or having that unknown was super scary and challenging, and probably one of our first challenges that we kind of went against. But then after that, when we said, okay, you've got to leave, we're going to just kind of figure this out. And we just seen time and time again where, God just showed up in different situations, or it always worked out for our good. We almost built that faith muscle where our risk tolerance got higher and higher and higher. And then we would just roll the dice on more and more stuff, and it paid off.
I mean, like so many times I remember telling people that, if I don't like to just say that it was one thing, but if I did have to narrow it down to one thing, it's the ability to know that I can lose it all and rebuild it again. So one of the hacks that I've learned in life is in our 20s, I would say, about my mid 20s, I threw everything that I've built up in my life away, right? For an addiction that I had. And through that time, it was about 7 years that I went down this path of, not having any purpose or not living in my purpose, and completely rebuilt everything. So threw everything away, had zero money to my name, and then now look at us, multimillionaires. And what that has taught me is ultimately I can do anything. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter if I lost everything tomorrow, I can rebuild it as long as I have time. Time's the most valuable thing.
Yeah,
right?
We've kind of built a callus on that where we're not scared because we know what we're capable of. And a lot of people, or some people, may not have those life experiences quite yet in their entrepreneurial journey or just life experiences to be able to make those decisions. But it is one of our superpowers, I like to say. It is ultimately the grit that holds all of this together.
Yeah, for sure.
So what advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur who's just getting started? They might not have this life experience. They might not have some of this darkness to kind of reflect back on, to appreciate the light. Just getting started. Naive Eric, what advice would you give him?
I would say, I'm just going to kind of follow up the previous statement, right? And what I mean by that is you can't be scared. Scared money don't make money, right? You hear that all the time. And basically what I'm going to say is do your due diligence, right? Figure out what the due diligence phase is to make sure that it's a good investment on paper. Then after you do your due diligence phase and it pencils out, do not let fear hold you back from stepping out and going for it, right? Because at the end of the day, we've got to make sure that we vet deals, business decisions, and all of that. But once we do that, we can't let fear be the main motivating factor to not pursue it.
Yeah. So knowing your numbers, having an audit of pros and cons. Also knowing when to step away from something you invested in. Let's say we got into this, we made maybe $50 or $100 a day. Knowing that, look, this is an L. The faster we can make a mistake and learn from it, the quicker that we can get on to our next purpose or finding, our main mission in life. And that's going to come. I mean, the reason I believe that we're so successful is because we are very quick at making mistakes and realizing oh, snap, I don't want to do that again, or let's not do that again, and being able to take action. When most people are already just in fear and stuck and can't move because they don't know paralysis of analysis, we made 6 mistakes and we figured out which way is the right way.
I always think back, I have a visual, remember I had that unicycle back in the day, I think about it like this is
you had a unicycle. Can we just pause to talk? Eric had a unicycle.
So, I mean, you jump on the unicycle and you just take off and you fall, right? And I've done fail multiple times and then figured out how to actually keep that thing going further when other people look at it oh, I'm gonna go take a lesson on how to ride this, you know what I mean? And I've done fail, boom, 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 you know what I mean? And then figured it out. And that's the same thing in business. It's dude, I'll run through the wall and just crash. And then ultimately ultimately refine the process each step of the way. And then by the time somebody else has done, figured out the courage to go, it's like we've failed so many times that we've perfected it.
Yeah. So the best advice that we can give as seasoned entrepreneurs is do your homework and do not be scared to fail and screw up, because it's not failing, it's just lessons learned.
Yeah, you got one life, man. Live it, And I'm not saying just rush out there, but at the end of the day, don't let fear dictate your decisions.
Yeah, I've seen it hold back so many gifts and talents from people who go on just to have miserable lives because they're not living in purpose, and that's not anywhere you want to be. So thank you for tuning in to The Grit Behind the Grind. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, all the socials for more behind the scenes content and updates. Guys, keep grinding, and we'll see you next time.